Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna, that was great from Shah to give a bit of an overview of sort of the overall technological trends that are happening in the industry at large. What I'm gonna talk a little bit now is about how do you bring this down to the customer level, your consumer level, and talk about really more for B2C businesses for the most part, but the same principles will apply to B2B, I think, as well. And it's really about connecting the dots between your brand, your customer, and the opportunity within the Internet of Things. So, Internet of Things, obviously, super exciting topic. I, being a Star Wars fan, like to think of it almost like the Force, which is that everything around us can be connected by all these different things. So basically, if it exists, it can be connected to one another. And it's just a fascinating opportunity. And so obviously, as marketers, as brands, as entrepreneurs, we're all really excited by this opportunity to jump into it and say, okay, we need to get involved, right? We need to do something with this Internet of Things. Almost like you can see this trend even within South by here, where it's almost like the next version of social or programmatic or whatnot. And this is the Internet of Things. We need to do something with it. And there's a few companies out there that I think are doing some really interesting things and have clearly gotten it right. You know, so easy examples such as Nest, you know, so getting it right within your home and connecting your home and making sure that it's hot when you want it to be hot, cold when you want it to be cold, and those things right when you're there or when you're not there. So really interesting case. Levi's are doing some interesting things in the retail space. So Levi's are now having connected stores where they're able to connect the objects that you pick up. So you as a consumer, you go into a couple of Levi's stores now, which they're trialing, where you pick up an object and you're able to, you try it on, you put it back down, you take it to the changing room, you leave it in there, you take it to the checkout desk to pay for it, and they're able to tell who's picking what up, what sizes they're picking up, what they're leaving behind, and this data is extraordinarily helpful for them to know what are their customers actually looking at. What are the things that maybe look good when they're on the shelf, but people don't actually want to buy? So great data there in terms of using this connected smart devices. Other great ones is Little Owlet is a really interesting company that's doing things in terms of children's healthcare. And they've discovered that, you know, parents are obviously very careful about their newborns and they're worried about leaving them on the bed and sleeping and SIDS and all these different things. And what they've come up with is a sock that connects with that, basically checks your baby's vitals whenever the baby's asleep or around the house or what have you, and able to say, how's the temperature? Is the baby getting enough oxygen? Is the baby sleeping? Is the baby crying? All these different things. But what's fascinating about them, because that just sounds great, a connected sock, right? Is that they're not bombarding parents with the information about it. They are actually just leaving a little disc that sits in the parents' room, which is glowing green for most of the time, and it only starts to glow red or an orange if there's something a parent needs to be worried about. So it's not obtrusive in terms of the data it's collecting and how it's sharing it with the parents, right? The said consumers in this instance. So lots of really great companies that are doing things really well. The problem is, there's a few that are not. And this is sort of the warning that we need to think about. And so there's two questions really, or statements that I think people should think about. The first one is pretty a common one that we often say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Don't know if you've seen this episode of The Simpsons when Homer designs a car. Well worth watching. He basically puts as many things in. He's like, I need a horn over here, one here, one here, one here, 10,000 different mirrors. And he puts all these things in because he can. Doesn't make it a great product, right? So, for example, in this smart connected world, terrible examples that we've seen lately, that who needs, for example, a shoe that is also an air conditioner, right? The smart, not probably a great product. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Who needs a connected belt when you already have a watch, you have a wristband, you have a necklace? Who needs that? So lots of terrible examples of connected things out there that people are just doing because they can. The other statement, though, is just because you would or would like to, it doesn't mean you actually can or are able to. And this one's a little more nuanced. This is more when brands and startups are able to figure out a customer need, but they actually haven't figured out how to actually make that customer's life better. So a really interesting one from recent is Oral-B. So everyone here presumably brushes their teeth. I'll just take that as a fact. And who doesn't want to have their teeth be clean, make sure they're brushing them the right way? So Oral-B said, okay, we're going to make a connected toothbrush. Great insight. People want to know they're getting the right teeth, they're brushing in the right way. So they came out with, they launched a couple of weeks ago in Barcelona, was the Oral-B Genius, which is this connected toothbrush. So should be great, lets you know what you're doing, lets you upload it to your dentist, all of these things. But they missed the point with what they were doing, because I don't know, so how many of you, for example, you wake up in the morning, you wander into the bathroom, you throw water on your face, and how many when you brush your teeth sort of walk around when you brush your teeth, right? I certainly do. And I splash water, the water's all over the sink, all of this. What Oral-B have done, for this Oral-B, the Genius toothbrush to work, you need to take your phone out of your pocket, which, how many pajamas have pockets, and stick it to the mirror in your bathroom, and brush your teeth standing there, just like this. Who does that? So they've missed the point. They figured out this great insight around customers, what they want, but they haven't figured out how to make the experience useful and actually make life better for their customers. So that's an example of just getting it wrong, if you will. So they figured it out, but they're not able to actually activate it or make this customer's life better. So how do you actually start to think about making your customer's life better? This is where we come to the idea of connecting the dots. And there's 3 dots that I like to think about when it comes to connecting these. The first one is your brand. The second one is your customer. And the third one is the opportunity within the Internet of Things, although really it could apply to any opportunity that's out there. So with your brand, it starts with thinking, what is your brand about? What's your purpose? And it's trying to reframe how you traditionally think about your business. So it's thinking, are you, Shah, you mentioned payments, right? Are you a payments or credit card company, or are you a company that helps people get what they want and what they need? And if you start to broaden that, it opens up extra opportunities for you and starts to reframe the space you can occupy in a customer's life. The second one is your customer. And it's thinking about, what is your customer really looking for? What's the need that you're trying to solve for them? And you can start to think of it in almost a Maslowian sort of hierarchy in terms of, customers want to be healthy. They want to be in control. They want to perform. They want to feel free. They want to express themselves. They want to connect with others. They want their lives to be better. They want them to be easier. They want them to be simpler. So start thinking about, what is that need that you're trying to solve in your customer's life? And then finally think about the opportunity within smart and connected devices. So there's 4 ways to think about this, and shamelessly stolen from Michael Porter, an article he wrote a couple of years ago in HBR, which is that he said there's devices that can help you monitor what's going on. So that's really sort of sharing, getting data from you so you see what's happening at all times, such as that sock I mentioned, the Owlet sock. There's also control, so you can control things from afar. So control those devices, the Internet of Things, from wherever you are, such as you can do that with the Nest, you can do it with Philips with the Hue lighting system. You can control things from wherever you are. And the third one is optimize, so the devices can start to learn your habits and optimize themselves over time. So go back to Nest as an example there, where it starts to optimize. And the final one being automate, where you basically set it and forget it. So by connecting these 3 dots, what's your brand really about? What does your customer care about within that space? And what's the actual type of experience you're able to deliver? That's how you start to get the strategy right, and that's how you start to see the brands that have been successful in doing this. And then just to leave you with sort of one extra point, there's one final dot you can think about, because we are at South by, and it's what's the dot which is the others that are in your space. So who are the other brands that are solving a need like this for a customer? Or who are the startups that are doing interesting things within your space as well? So a great example there is with Tesla and Apple, right? So Tesla obviously have this great car. But what they've done now recently is they now have, with partnership through your phone, through your watch, you're able to summon your car so that it's waiting at your door when you walk out the door in the morning. So it drives itself out of your garage, it's waiting there for you to then drive off to work, right? And you do it from your watch. That's 2 brands that are working together to solve that customer need and make things better for them. So the lesson there is that, so startups like Owlet, for example, the one with the baby sock, if they're about making that your parents feel better about their children's development, they should work with somebody like a Kimberly-Clark or a Pampers or who have you to try and work with brands in that way. So it's not necessarily all about going out and looking for VC funding, for venture-backed funding for startups. It's maybe going to brands that are in the space that you're operating in and seeing ways you can work with them there. Ultimately, sort of the final point to leave you with, and I'll pass it along, Emma, thank you, is don't necessarily think about it as trying to make smart and connected devices, but try and make smarter and connected, better connected, easier customers really at the end of the day, because that's really what we should be solving for in everything within the Internet of Things, with everything else we're doing. So that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karim. I'm curious when this is all going to happen, but we will talk about that in our final discussion. Yeah. So please.